Thank you for tuning in to the Island Treasures podcast. We value the insights shared by our guests and host, but it's important to note that their personal experiences are intended to inform and encourage, and not to replace professional, legal, or medical advice. With that, we are ready for today's exciting episode. Welcome to the Island Treasures mini podcast for caregivers. This episode is brought to you by Alongside Caregiver Consulting, and I'm your host and caregiver consultant, Alison Banshee from beautiful Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. I was introduced to Teepa Snow's teachings when I stepped into my role as the social worker in a long-term care home. And so it was a huge honor to have Teepa join me as a guest on the Island Treasures podcast in the episode called Getting Curious with Teepa Snow. Teepa shared insightful information to help us all provide a kind, effective, and positive approach to care for loved ones living with dementia. Teepa has also developed the GEMS model to illustrate and help us better understand the progression of dementia and the changes in abilities. Here's an excerpt from the full episode with Teepa describing the GEMS model.
So I thought, okay, well, if we saw this differently, I need words that bring up a thought of beauty and amazing and endurance and just remarkable, but with the right setting. So they had to have a setting. And I thought, oh, I know, GEMS. Gems have settings. And so I started thinking about which gems. And so a sapphire, like blue, like oceans and sky that support life. Sapphires are that blue that is ever supportive. And then we have diamonds who are clear and sharp, lots of facets, but a little rigid and inflexible. But boy, can I shine as long as things are going the way I like them. And I like my routines. I like my rituals. If we can use those, we're going to be fine. If I'm with people I like, doing things I like, I'm fine. When not, I can cut. So it's best to know that. Emeralds, they're green and on the go. Emeralds are always flawed. That's a rule about an emerald. You have a fake emerald, you have a perfect emerald, but it's not real. Emeralds are on the go, but I'm skipping steps, or I'm going back in time, or I think I'm in another place. So I'm making mistakes. I may or may not know it, but I want to feel valued. And I want a friend. I don't want a boss. I don't want to be bossed around. And then I have amber, and amber's caught in a moment of time, just like amber is something caught in a moment of time. And so it's really variable. Every piece of amber is totally unique. But we also know it's all about, in the amber state, in that moment, sensory intake and sensory intolerance. What do I like? What do I need? What don't I like? So if I don't like it, I will push away in a heartbeat. If I love it, I want more of it. But like the caution light, the yellow, I don't have any safety awareness. So I don't have caution. So I'll do things that are risky or dangerous, or I get in people's spaces and bother them. And I'm not actually trying to do that. I'm trying to touch things. Unfortunately, what I'm touching is another human, and they don't care for it. So it can cause lots of issues. But when you're touching me and care, I can react really strongly. But I'm real curious, and I have a lot of skill to get into trouble. And then those rubies are when fine motor stops, but gross motor is still. So I'm strong without skill. And that could be in my mouth, in my eyes, in my speech, in my hands, in my movements, in my feet, in my body. So I don't have a lot of skill, but I'm moving. So when I'm going, I don't know how to stop. And when I'm stopped, I don't know how to get going. And that will be, you have to help me with transitions, but I'm also very slow often. And when I do go fast, watch out, because it's not a skillful fast. So there's a high risk of something. I'm running into walls, or I'm running into the floor without meaning to, because I don't have good balance. And then finally, at the last of this is we have the pearl. And the pearl is inside a shell, which is the body. And, the outside of an oyster shell is pretty ugly. But what's inside is this amazing built layer by layer, this amazing grain of sand that, whoa, totally different, trapped inside the shell, unless everything's just right and the shell opens. And then you can see the beautiful inclusion of the pearl. And every night we are our own pearl, because without a good sleep cycle, we need to go away from the world outside and take care of our inside before we can come back and be present. So every night we're pearls.
Isn't that a beautiful description? Now we can all see folks living with dementia as gems. And what we need to do is to provide the perfect setting for them to shine. I recognize how precious your time is, especially as caregivers. And so this mini podcast is designed just for you. Teepa has so much to share, so when you have more time, I invite you to listen to the full episode. And be sure to check out her website, teepasnow.com, as on her website there are many helpful resources for caregivers and for your loved one living with dementia. In addition to Teepa Snow's website, I invite you to check out the resources on alongsidecaregiverconsulting.ca. Thanks for listening to this mini version or watching the video version of the podcast. Take care.